Me again, it's Kristen with Checkpoint, and I'm here to talk about what else? The Hub program again. And I'm going to keep talking about it until something happens, and I hope that if you are in agreement and maybe perhaps a legitimate hub yourself, that you'll join me and we'll have the voice of a choir that makes a beautiful sound and gets something done. I just feel like now's the time because there's things are kind of converging. So you've got all of these women stepping forth and wanting to take their place in society and kind of reclaim something they think that was lost from them, be it business opportunities or something else. And then you've also got Texas making great headlines with the economic climate and the business climate here. And pretty much every day I see a tweet from our governor, and it's a great tweet about business, but we're not there yet when it comes to women-owned businesses. And this program is important. It was a good idea, and right now it's just really a mockery, and that needs to be fixed. So if you are a legitimate hub, and you know if you're a legitimate hub, you don't have to sit here and think, well, I got to look that up. You know if you are or not. Join me in this, share this, add your own story to this, and get the word out. And if you're not, shame on you. There's a couple of codes of, you probably live in a community or grew up in a society or a member of an organization that has a code of conduct. And for example, I've been in a Rotary Club for years and years and years, and part of our Rotary four-way test that we recite at the beginning of every meeting is, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And if you are one of those fake hubs that is just kind of, played the little Enron game to make things look like a real hub, you're violating one or more of those. If you're an Aggie like I am, there's an Aggie code of honor, there's an Aggie core values that just don't go along with faking the hub. And I understand, like, there's, for example, maybe a tax write-off that you don't agree with, but you'll take it anyway. Maybe you feel like we shouldn't get tax write-offs for donating to our church, but the code allows it, and you donate to your church, and so you get the write-off. This is different. The HUB program is for businesses that are owned and controlled by a certain category of people that has historically been underutilized. HUB, historically underutilized business. And so you can't just put the company in your wife's name or in somebody else's name to make yourself look like a hub if it's not owned by and controlled by that qualifying person. Because think about it, Texas is a community property state. So with my company, even though I own 100% of the stock, it's still half owned by my husband. So it really comes down to control. So if you're a hub, if you're doing business with a hub, if you are a vendor or manufacturer who has to have hubs selling your product, if you're a government agency or an educational facility that has to buy from hubs, think about that. Maybe sometimes you don't know if they're a legitimate hub. Maybe you don't have enough interaction with them, but many, many times you're close enough to your vendor to know if they're legitimate. And sometimes I think from every end of the spectrum, we're just trying to check a box, and well, the state says we got to do business with hubs, and so yeah, I know that you're not really a legitimate hub, but you got the hub by your name, check, check, check. And then you're surprised when that company is unethical in some way or cheats you in some way. Well, hello, if they're cheating the government, if they're cheating the system, eventually they're going to cheat you, they're going to cheat their employees. So, they should be winning business on fair ground for whatever organizational structure they have. So my ideas for the HUB program, and this is not a criticism of any one person, one agency, one organization. I guess I love our governor, but if it were a criticism of anybody, it might be the comptroller, the person who heads the HUB program, the comptroller, because he knows what's going on and kind of looks the other way, which makes a mockery of our program, which makes a mockery of his program. If we're going to have a program, let's do it right. This is Texas, and we do things right. We're the model. So let's be that model. Let's be that model with hub businesses and women-owned businesses. So number one, let's refine the definition of a hub. It's a little bit loose, and since Texas is a community property state, ownership doesn't always matter, especially when it comes to women-owned businesses. So let's really hone in on the control. And the person who qualifies for the hub has to be in control. So that's easy. That's an easy fix. And that would probably knock out a whole bunch of hubs. And people think, oh, there go all my vendors. Well, guess what? The other hubs that aren't getting the business are there to step up and be your new vendors. So don't you worry about it. So that's the first thing. Second thing, let's audit more. In 22 years, we're in our 23rd year of business. We've been audited twice. Somebody from Austin has flown out to El Paso to audit to find out whether my company was really run by a woman. I appreciate that. I told the person who came to audit that I appreciate that. But let's audit more. Where do we get the funds? That's always a good question. But we find the funds for things that are important to us. Can't audit everybody, but there's a few things we can audit. For example, if it's reported, have a reporting mechanism where people can report hubs that they suspect aren't true hubs. And if you get enough reports on a specific company, well then that's worth an audit. Another one is this 51% ownership. That's always a little bit dicey. So when you see a company 51% owned by somebody, that's someone who's trying to structure their company to just barely make the mark. That's a good one to consider auditing. I think women-owned ones are good ones to consider auditing because of the community property. And so you've got a married person, her husband automatically owns the other half, so you've got to look at the control. You can't just look at ownership when it comes to woman-owned. But there's other flags, there's triggers that could trigger an audit, and of course reporting. Let's help each other stay honest. Let agencies report, let competitors report, let other businesses report, and we'll know who to audit. And years ago, when they increased the fee for CMBL, we were told that that increased fee was going to be to cover audits for hubs. So the money should, in theory, be there. Sorry for that pause, but kind of have to remember where I was. Oh, back to the hub qualifying. This is one reason that even though I'm a passionate disability advocate, I am not in favor of expanding the hub program to allow people for disabilities, because I feel like they could be exploited as women have. You know, many men have put their company in their wives' names, and the woman doesn't work or doesn't control the company, and they're just kind of using her, exploiting her for the benefit of continuing this good old boy network. And so I would absolutely, it would break my heart to see people with disabilities exploited that way. Oh, you've got a disability, let's qualify you for this program and I'll take care of it, and you won't have to do anything and we'll make all this money. And the people with disabilities it will not be good for them, and it won't be as intended for them. So I've been in situations, I was sitting in a purchasing director's office one time and said, oh, you do business with so-and-so, he's a good friend of mine. And he said, yeah, I really like him, and I keep telling him if you'd put the business in his wife's name, we could do more with him. I said, stop doing that. So even, you know, agencies, in this case it was an education agency, they feel the pressure to do business with hubs, and you know, they make suggestions like that I'm sure he didn't really think through his suggestion. He's just got pressure to do business with hubs, which is good. But that is out of line to tell somebody to put the company in their wives' names. We've got big vendors. My company is a rep for some very reputable manufacturers, and we've got these big vendors that will sign hub agreements with these very large, 100 million, 200 million. Remember that a U in hub is for underutilized, but with these very large companies that they know they're not legitimate hubs, but they've somehow squeaked through the program by putting the company in someone's name who qualifies, who does not control the company. That's the big clue. And so they'll sign agreements, reseller agreements with them, because that company can, you know, finance a $2 million, a $10 million deal, and the manufacturer wants that. But again, that is just making mockery of our program. So if you agree that this is the time to shore up the hub program so that we put companies as hubs, we qualify companies as hubs that legitimately are owned and controlled by the minorities that we feel should be excluded. Maybe it's not women, Asian, Black, Hispanics. I don't know what they all need to be. I know women need to be in there just looking at the business climate and look at boards of directors, look at advisory councils, look at even companies that have, you know, a good balance of women in their leadership. That balance is not there. So women still need to be in there, and maybe other minorities, I'm not sure, but whatever it is, let's make it tight. Let's make it auditable. Let's close the loopholes, and let's not be a mockery. Let's make it right. Let's be the model for the rest of the country, as we are in so many other ways. So thanks for listening. If you're not a real hub, if you're a fake hub, you probably haven't gotten this far anyway. If you are, I thank you, and keep at it and keep your voice out there.